Skip got fired.
Not by the firm.
Rita, whenever you are.
Go ahead.
Call this meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Taylor, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Ganger?
Here.
Commissioner Stanley?
Here.
Commissioner White? Here. Commissioner Orthwein?
Here.
Mayor Scott?
Yes.
Morgan?
I'm here.
Got two names.
Scotty.
Let the record show that also present is the town manager, William Thrasher, our attorney for today, Mr. Baird, and Chief. We all know him? Garrett Ward.
All right. Been provided with the minutes from the last meeting on February 12th. Are there any corrections, changes, or additions?
Move approval of minutes.
Is there a
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Our next meeting is April 8th. Any commissioners know at this time that they will not be able to attend? Very good. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. O'Hare.
Mr. Moffett, the Coastal Star reports that people who act in bad faith when making public record requests shouldn't expect to win court cases and fees. I completely agree. Mr. Ganger, Vice Mayor Ganger, has made a number of appearances before the legislature saying a lot of things. Most recently, he said record requests are breaking the town's budget, and I propose to you that it's the failed RICO complaint that broke the town's budget. And I remind you that you can ask for as much money as you want from the residents. Your budget will never break. There's always money available from everybody in town. He also said to the committee, technically, we didn't comply. That technically, we did break the rules, but we didn't comply with the thing, but we shouldn't be fined for that. Well, technically, I run red lights once in a while, and I'm going to use that one next time I go before the judge. That particular bill, as of today, is dead. The Senate gave the League of Cities a nice gift by unanimously approving it. The House, on the other hand, said, no way, Jose. And the representatives I spoke to explained to me that that was sort of like splitting the baby, keeping everybody happy, but not aggravating every newspaper in the state, from Miami Herald to Jacksonville to Tampa, except for the Coastal Star, that was against this bill. I would like to suggest that you can get your RICO money back, that all the attorneys that participated in that have insurance companies, and we're going to show later that that RICO thing was completely frivolous, and you should be able to get your money back from those attorneys. Mr. Sweetapple at the last meeting said that the problems with the town began in 2013. They really began in 2011 with Officer Ginsburg, but that's for another time. He also said, I expect that every time I speak the truth, I'll be sued for defamation. A lot of people get sued for defamation for speaking the truth. A judge determines that it was the truth and it's thrown out, and the defendant gets their money back. There's no problem there. But he continues to make defamatory statements, and I wonder if the commission will continue to pay his legal bills when he does. But Mr. Sweetapple's not the only one. Mr. Randolph told the magistrate at my second to last hearing that the medical episode that took place with me, speaking on behalf of the town, that episode was a ruse. Then he went on to say, I wish the paramedics had taken his blood pressure here. I know it would have been normal. Now I assume Mr. Randolph is doing some continuing education for his medical degree. And I think the town's fortunate to have a town attorney who also happens to be trained in medicine. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, Attorney Sweetapple's report is on our website on the home page under documents. It's very easy to access and read. Anyone else in the public wish to speak? Yes, sir, Mr. Border.
Bill Boardman, a resident on Polo Drive, as well as the president of the Civic Association. I'm wearing both hats in making these remarks, both as a resident and as a member of the Civic Association board. And this relates to the construction site manual handbook that you most recently amended about a year ago. It is, I think by anybody's estimation, an excellent document. It provides a lot of protections for the neighborhood residents during the construction process of other homes. The larger these homes become, it seems the longer that process takes, which makes sense. So when you have a neighborhood that's affected by a given construction activity, it's probably going to take at least 2 years in that location. The accomplishment of some of these objectives, I think, was very much demonstrated by the construction project that Mr. Cudmore did on Polo Drive, which completed about 6 months ago. There was a magnificent fence, there was a magnificent parking area. The terms of this were followed very closely, and it was very evident to the membership or the neighborhood residents that this really helps things when that happens. There was some problem with working hours and things like that, but by and large, it was a major difference, and it showed what enforcement of this manual handbook can bring. We ask that you allocate resources, think about organizational structure, whatever it may take, to see that this is enforced. There have been some examples, which we don't have to go into now, where things have gone on for long periods of time that are inconsistent with this, and yet there's been no enforcement. We don't think that's because anybody doesn't want to enforce it. Perhaps we need a little clearer structure, a little clearer expectations. People that are expected to enforce it should be perhaps more schooled in what this provides. There are a lot of things like that you can take care of and is part of your bailiwick. But the request that we make is that you think about an effective, clearly established enforcement mechanism. It shouldn't be left to residents. Now, on those occasions, I would be quick to say, on those occasions where residents do act as the initiating body by calling the police department or calling Bill, there is spectacular response. So there's certainly no problem with that. But I think there's a feeling that you all should clearly articulate officials of the town to enforce these provisions of the handbook, not leave it to residents to be the initiators.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Duly noted. And we have had some conversations about that, and we'll be looking into it again. All right, let's move on to the underground.
Danny Brandon, Bradley Gillespie. Wanted to talk to you. We recently had RFPs advertised and bids put in place to underground phase 2. For that project, 2 bids were received. one bid is very high and the other is high. And I'll go into that in a minute. We've done an evaluation of the bids as required. We had a evaluation panel with Rita, myself, and the town manager to go through the bids and rank them. And we have in your hand there the rankings and which would provide the recommendation for selection among these bids. The low bid and the highest ranked bidder is approximately $965,000 higher than the budget. In March of 2012 or 2010, we created this budget at for the town project at $5,352,490. And that was the budget for the construction of the facilities at that time. In March of 2010, we were in a down market. There was very little work to be done, and construction costs were much better than today. In the process of translating the construction budget to the assessment budget, as we went through the assessment methodology, Wildan Financial Services was hired by the town. We had an out-of-town attorney who handled the assessment methodology, a specialist in that area. And as the dollars were translated into the assessment methodology, which is key for non-ad valorem assessments, you cannot exceed the amount that you have noticed and put forward when you adopted the assessment role. But the amount that was put forward on the assessment roll had a very small contingency, and it was primarily the construction cost. It had no inflation adders.
Now, Mr. Brown, how about we just get to questions? Essentially, we've got a phase 2 budget that's $954,431.76 over budget. Is that correct?
Yes, the budget or the bid was
Based on the low bid.
$2,874,569. And that would put us over $954,431.
And so the decision for this commission is to approve that quote and move forward with phase 2, or to take some other steps in response to it.
Correct. In my experience, and others may have additional information, typically you move forward with it and find extra funds. You could approve moving forward subject to finding extra funds and not issuing a notice to proceed with the project until such savings were brought back to the commission to review and subsequently approve the issuance of a notice to proceed. My reading of the cone of silence is that we were not allowed to talk with the bidders until the authority having the ability to make that award active.
Well, sure, and while there may be some negotiation there, some reduction in that quoted price, or increase, frankly, the bottom line is that's the approximate number that we're going to be dealing with. And you and I have spoken about this, obviously. And I've been mulling it over, obviously, since I first saw the one quoted price that came. And it just, I was not on this commission when the decision was made to recommend undergrounding to the town. I was not on the commission when the first due diligence, attorney review was done, but I have been on the commission to see the slow progress, delay in implementation of phase one, where AT&T's lines still remain above ground, the poles are still up, and the landscaping, at least in the far south end of the town, looks like a Benghazi suburb. That's what it looks like to me. And so I have no confidence in a phase two advancement at these numbers at this time. And what I would like to do is first hear from the commissioners questions that they may have of you before we decide how we should proceed with this. So I'll turn it over to the other commissioners.
Yeah, I'll ask the first question, which is, unfortunately, yesterday, when I was reading the material that we got from the town, I couldn't make it add up, and the answer was it didn't add up. And that's such a rookie mistake, that to ask us to make a decision when somebody can't even do the math is very difficult. I wouldn't be prepared to make a decision until I was confident that whatever I was deciding on was finally accurate, at least as far as it can be. Because I was around at the time that the original budgets were put together, I either made a personal mistake in not seeing things that I should have seen, or I was, somebody pulled the wool over our eyes. And I think it's probably more the former than the latter. I did ask questions suggesting that why is there an inflation factor in here? And as I recall, the answer was a legal answer, which is, you have to use certain formulas, and the formulas we have are such and such, and so we have to use them, and we don't have a choice in the matter. And a lot of it went into this whole notion of assessment versus tax, and there is a different treatment of when you're going to do an assessment. I also remember that we had a lot of people at that point in time who were opposed to the assessment process, and so we went out of our way to make sure that it was done in such a way as it would be a test of a potential legal action against us. We started, I think, reasonably well. We certainly didn't execute anywhere near what we believed we could do. And then this shock, and I thought it was $1 million shock, and everybody said, no, it's a $500,000 shock, it's stunning. It is absolutely stunning. On the other hand, we'd all be a bunch of fools if we didn't think that the cost was going to be higher than we had estimated starting back in 2010. The world's different. It's just a question of how much, not necessarily whether we're going to have to pay more than we had originally planned. For whatever it's worth, Mr. Mayor, I just don't think we're in a position right now to make a decision until we're absolutely confident that whatever decision we make is based on correct mathematics, if nothing else.
Yeah, the numbers have fluctuated considerably in the last week. I agree with you completely. But I'd like to hear from the other commissioners as well. It's quite obvious that I don't think we can make a decision on accepting a quote where the numbers have fluctuated in the week, and which we're looking at almost $1 million of budget without taking a good hard look at this.
I agree. I want to know, when we started this, we had no concept it was going to be delayed. I mean, I was reading the timeline. Oh, is there no recourse to FPNL for this? I mean, how, in 2013, they were saying 14 to 16 weeks, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah,
I mean,
significant delays.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
do they hold no accountability for the delays and cost?
The, up to this point, like the first project, major project was Jupiter Island. FPL dedicated people, engineers, to work with us, and it executed in 3 years, $8.5 million. In Gulfstream, we had somebody dedicated, not Gulfstream, sorry, Jupiter and the Column, which was the predecessor to this project. In this project, they have downsized continuously, they're outsourcing their engineering, and we have several other projects that no engineer's been assigned or even started for months. So, it appears that with the projects that are coming forward now, such as Palm Beach, that FPL's gonna have to do something different because they are not responding.
But that's still, we're in the middle of this, and it's been 5 years or something. I mean,
Right.
do they, and I'm ask again, don't they hold any accountability?
They will not commit to a timeline.
Even after we filed the complaint? That's still in 2013, I
They-
think.
After the complaint,
Does
they
that hold
said they
nothing?
would do it in 6 months, and
Yeah.
it took them 1.5 years.
Okay, exactly. And so that doesn't mean anything?
There was no penalty on their part for not meeting up to what they had committed to,
They can just do anything they want?
until somebody raises the issue and figures out how to change the plan.
Well, how come we didn't raise the issue?
Well, our raising the issue is going to the Public Service Commission, and when they came back with their response, it was, we're committing to do better. Should we have gone back to the Public Service Commission? Yes. Would we have gotten any different response? We didn't get any benefit from the first
The
thing.
commission should be aware that Palm Beach has a vote on
The 15.
Tuesday
Mhm.
for an $80 million project. And I'm just wondering what obligation we have as citizens to let Palm Beach voters know that this could happen to them. Because if our $5 million project is off by $1 million, do the math, their $80 million project, I mean, we're talking about something that could be catastrophic to the taxpayers of a neighboring Palm Beach County municipality. We're getting kind of into almost moral and ethical issues here now, is that either FP&L is gonna get their act together, and the phone company and whatever, and actually serve their customers as they promise. Or, we're in an awful situation where the utilities who provide us essential service don't give a crap. And, we could either make a stink about this, or we could lick our wounds and say, well, pity us, we just didn't do it well enough. I want this project to be completed. I want this project, and I'm quite frankly thinking, at 30,000 feet, this is a town that's assessed value is about $1 billion, and we're talking about $1 million difference in a short period of time. And if you stand back and say, is this town gonna be $1 million more valuable when all of our lines are buried and all of our, the safety issue and the quality of life issue? There's a lot of issues here that I think are very positive, and we should be going ahead. But we shouldn't be going ahead flying blind like we've been flying for the last several years.
I agree. I want to see this project go forward. I think it'd be a horrible mistake to bail out on it now. I mean, it's just unacceptable. But I want to feel that at least we're going in the right direction. We have all our numbers right, and it's going to be done in a timely fashion. And also, Gulfstream is so fortunate to have an incredible, it's growing leaps and bounds. I mean, but this is still unacceptable. The numbers and the delays, I think, are totally unacceptable.
I had a meeting, I think 2 weeks ago with Comcast, and we were able to get the fiber optics basic plan. And after going through that plan and looking and knowing that fiber doesn't take nearly the conduits, and if you remember seeing the orange conduits up and down A1A out here that were sticking up out of the ground, a lot of conduits because of the way the coaxial system is configured. I met with them again this week and went through it and got them to really get down to what do you have to have, and we've probably cut 50% out of their work. And we're probably gonna cut some more out of it. The contractor, in my opinion, has probably overestimated the project. And I think that there's opportunity to get some savings by going through the revised Comcast plan, going through his layout of the cost, particularly in the services. I'm not sure exactly what those numbers are gonna be, but I think they're gonna be pretty significant. But that would be something that would be brought back to the commission after we had a chance to do that. We have not talked to the contractor, the cone of silence. We understood that we were not in a position to talk to the contractor until the authority having the power to make the award did so. And that typically in the cone of silence in Palm Beach County, it says that the cone of silence is terminated upon that authority acting. I had talked to the mayor about two things. One is council could maybe give us a refinement on that and tell us that we could, in fact, negotiate with the contractor prior to the commission acting. We have a 120-day window to do what we need to do. The bid will be good for 120 days from March 1st. The other option might be that the commission authorizes to award the contract, but not to award a notice to proceed until the changes have been brought back to the commission for review and approval.
Well, essentially, our options are to approve the contract, as you said, subject to some negotiation, and then coming back with a different number. I suspect it would be significantly different. Suspend the project, that is, defer it until such time as the economy turns, or these contractors have less business and it's more economically feasible. Or three, cancel the project and move to get funds back from FP&L based on the argument that number one, they haven't done the work, and number two, their egregious behavior in the handling of phase one justifies a refund of that money. There are other complicating factors, however, which we have discussed, and that is the price of phase one was based upon doing the entire town, I believe. That is, phase two was part of phase one pricing, which could create a legal issue. My thought is, this is a very important issue. It involves an awful lot of money that has gone on way too long. And my thought would be to defer this, allow me to tap into the talent we have in this town, to put some people together to review this matter and make a recommendation to the commission. That's my gut reaction.
As a practical matter, I agree with you. As a practical matter, however, if one wanted to get money back from FP&L, the project would be a $10 million project instead of $6 million, and the lawyers would get 4 of that.
Yeah.
They are intractable. They are, it's anytime one ever, and all the people I speak with who have to deal with FP&L, and remember we had a motion at our last meeting with respect to the utility companies, although in this case it was more tipped towards the phone company, you know, wanting to charge us as a municipality for moving their lines on under our streets at their convenience. That bill, by the way, did pass, but it was really watered down, so some, kind of some good news, relative good news, I should say. But, I think, you know, we gotta solve this problem ourselves, I think. And I think that whatever pressure we can put on whoever is a bidder, it has the best bid. It's kinda up to us. I don't know, I think the idea of using some other town, there are people in this town who watched this project from day one and have been, everywhere from cynical about it to, question it. But, you know, let's see if we can't rally some of their town to help us out. I will say, however, you know, we've had contacts with the head of AT&T, we've had contacts with, who's basically said, we're going out of that business. You know, we don't really give a damn about, who puts lines under your, you know, because we're not gonna be in the landline business. We're literally gonna divest our landline business. So why should we spend any money with you guys beyond what we have committed to do?
Well, your point's a good one, and it's the one I had as well on the money from FP&L. But as I understand, for work that they have not completed, it's not necessarily an antagonistic relationship. That is, they will refund that money.
The contractor that we executed on phase 2 provides a termination agreement wherein the applicant may terminate the contract at any point in time. FPL will be entitled to recover any expenses incurred to that point.
So it's an option. I'm not saying that we should do it, but it's something that needs to be considered.
I think you cannot stop a project halfway through it. You know what, I think we should pause it and get our numbers together, but it's like stopping building a house halfway through. What do you got? Nothing. So I think for the future of this town, we should proceed. And I think we should proceed a little smarter and a little wiser than just saying everything's gonna be okay, because it hasn't been okay.
I think we got better than typical performance out of AT&T. We were able to get in contact with some executives and got some commitments, and they cleaned their stuff out last September. But the wires that are up there now, Comcast wires, had a meeting with them the other day. They made a commitment that by the end of this week, this is Friday, by the end of next week, by the 18th, they will be off the poles. The decisions regarding the governmental adjustment factor, the 25% credit, the rules that are filed with PSC say that you have to have 250 single-family homes to have a project that qualifies for a 25% credit, or you have to have 3 miles of overhead lines that are being placed underground. And that needs to be investigated to determine what the impact of that might be if we did it.
Phase 1 does not qualify for either of those?
It probably does not.
No, it does
So
not.
it does
No,
not.
We've done that
That's
research.
the impact of
Yeah.
phase 2 on phase 1 for
Right.
a 25% cost difference.
And we would have to pay FPL the difference between the credit that would apply and the 25%, which I think is gonna be like, it's gonna be the 10 or 15% instead of 25.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I think it's gonna be either 10 or 15% credit instead of 25% credit in the GAF.
If they did not
If we did not,
include phase 2.
if we terminated at phase 1 and said phase 1 is the project, we're done.
Andy, I don't think, I hope that the people who are sitting in this room and the people who are gonna read about this in the newspaper understand, we're gonna go ahead with this project, in my opinion. I don't see a reason not to go ahead, but I sure see reasons not to go ahead stupidly. I think this is where we get some of the smart minds to start thinking about, we're negotiating, I hate to say this is the art of the deal, but, you know, if Donald Trump were here, these damn things would be up and you know, we'd be worried about some other problem.
We work for Trump.
This is a time where, I was shocked when I read that they're gonna, maybe I read it wrong, but the cost of taking the poles down has gone up from what we had estimated, because they're almost charging as much to take it out as to put a pole in.
Yeah,
That, I mean,
to put in.
baloney. And if we have, say, FPL, you've been screwing us, maybe this is the time to say, how about taking these poles out gratis? They're your poles, just take them away.
Well, we challenged them, and asked them if they were gonna undrill the poles and undig the hole and that kind of thing. To really go dig into it because it looked outrageous to us. But I think the one thing we don't think about is the hazardous material, getting rid of the hazardous material. You can't just take them to the landfill and dump these poles.
Why are they considered hazardous?
They are, either have arsenic in them or they're creosote. And those are environmentally unacceptable.
I understand that, but I still think that FPL, if they have screwed us, maybe we could ask them to be able to take this stuff and dump it someplace where they normally dump it and not charge us for it, because they're the ones that have caused the problem, not us.
We talked to Palm Beach Metals about taking the transformers.
Yeah, to get a credit.
And it was, we could probably do that, but you have to get all the oil out of the transformer and you have to get a certification, there's no PCBs in the transformers. So for about as much money as you hope to get out of scrap metal, you have to
To
pay
sell them.
others to do something with the oil and to do some certification on non-PCB poly.
Well, we have roughly 3.5 months to respond to these bids, correct?
Left or?
120 days
120 days.
from March 1st.
Am I understanding right, is the attorney, you can authorize you to speak to the contractors or not? I was kind of confused about that.
Well, the attorney probably has a better handle on the cone of silence.
Exactly.
As I read it, and I sent it to Bill from Palm Beach County, there are 2 sentences in there. One in the county's version kind of indicates that the contractor could talk to employees in the town, but not to the negotiating team. I know that I'm in another cone of silence group, and I cannot talk to anybody in the group. I'm like only allowed to talk to people in the group in a public meeting, and we can't talk to the contractors or anybody that would be involved. But the other people in the town are not in the cone of silence for that kind of thing, because they're not on the evaluation and rating team. There's another line below that line that says that the cone of silence is terminated when the authority having the ability to execute or award the contract acts. And that would mean that the commission would have to step forward and say, you know, we're authorizing the award of the contract, and notice to proceed will be delivered pending on the evaluation of the bid.
Kenny, did anyone who bid on the Palm Beach contract initially bid on ours? Or, you know, the fact that we only had 2 bidders doesn't give us a whole lot of leverage. And it looked to me like one of the bids was really a throw it against the wall, and if they're dumb enough to take it, I'll do the work.
Courtesy bid. The town has notified the bidder who will be put to the commission for approval pending the passing of the referendum for the $90 million project.
So they're
I'm
bidding.
sorry, what was that?
It's
What was
Palm
that?
Beach.
The town has notified the engineering company that has bid on doing the engineering work that they intend to make an award or request the commission to make an award pending the March 15th vote. They put the project out to the town to vote on, whether they should go underground or not. We did the straw poll here. I believe the straw poll here was landowners.
Property owners.
Property owners, right. In some jurisdictions, they're required to have registered voters vote on those things. But
Just in full disclosure, Palm Beach has two PACs that are favoring the bill, two separate PACs, and then there's a PAC that is against the bill. And if you drive through Palm Beach now, you see as many signs as you would see in a typical election campaign, vote yes or vote no. It's still contentious. And that's why I go back to the notion of saying, is there any leverage here for us, given that situation, to take any act that is going to help us in the process of getting these bids, getting our bid as low as it can possibly be, and getting the progress as fast as it possibly could be, so we catch up what some of the time we've lost. I mean, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, you're the expert on Palm Beach. I don't know.
Well, the question is whether you can negotiate with a contractor prior to awarding
Yeah.
The contract to them. I don't know. I think we need to get a legal opinion on it. We're not gonna ask Tom today. It's gonna require a little bit of
I'll work with Bill to.
But it seems to me that's issue number one. Can you work with the contractor to try to reduce that price? The March 15th vote may be significant in that. I assume that they would want to bid that job.
Well,
I don't-
this is a construction contractor. The March 15th for Palm Beach is engineering contract.
I don't think
Well,
that'll have any, that
So
won't
they're
have
gonna be different.
anything to do with us.
Well,
They're
that's
just
just a
starting,
first-
they're like where
they're
we were 5 years ago. So
Yeah, okay. got
this
it.
contractor and Palm Beach have nothing,
Well, it would have
together.
something to do with it, but just not in the time frame.
no, because we want to get this done in the next 7 months or 8
And
months. or
probably in
whatever.
2017, you're gonna see, that if things go positively on the referendums, you're gonna see work start to come out of Palm Beach, both ends, north and south, which is gonna be a tremendous drain on the construction resources. You're also gonna see Longboat Key with a $50 million project working on both ends of their town. So the 2017 is probably gonna be a real problem getting contractors.
So we have 120 days from March 1st to decide on these bids. So this is pretty disjointed. I don't know if anybody agrees with me. I mean, we obviously at a public meeting, everybody has to ask their questions, which we all have, identify some issues. I'm kind of confused. I'm usually a pretty bright guy. What issues are you identifying? So I don't know whether we need to call a special meeting or whether we defer it to the council and to Bill Thrasher, or if we need to defer this, because we're sort of like calculating numbers and getting updated sheets, strikeouts, the day of, the week of. It's a pretty big decision. Again, I don't think we're gonna totally cancel the project, but most everybody's reference point is, without all the rules for sealed bids and everything, is you send out you ask for some bids, you get a contractor, you look at the bids, you negotiate with although it's not that easy on the governmental side, with the rules, and then you pick a bid. I mean, that's the voters and the residents' reference point. So if we're kind of up here going, well, it's going to be more, but after you approve $1 million plus, we might be able to get it down. And everybody out there that's built a house, or a bigger business has built a commercial building or buildings or towns out in our community, you're like, huh, what's going on? Obviously, the private sector is much different than this. We all know that. That's why we're here debating this. But I guess from a timing standpoint, I can't really, I guess for lack of make heads or tails of most of this right now, other than I think we're at the worst case right now, $1 million over. So do we need, if we've got 120 days, do we defer it till we get a little more information, whether or not we can even discuss this with any of the bidders, which I think is prudent anyway, even if you can't even talk to the contractors? You know, do we see how it goes, call a special meeting, we have that opportunity? I think we have probably enough time to defer it to the next meeting. Of course, then we're running up against summer, which we all know in politics in Florida is don't make a really big decision in the middle of July, especially when a lot of your constituents, whether they're voting or non-voting, are paying in the town of Gulfstream to do this. So I think we have about 60 days. I don't know if we're running up against any market considerations other than more delays. I think we're used to delays at this point. That's just my opinion. You got a little window here. We got a lot of information, some of which may not be complete. I wouldn't say incorrect, because in the construction industry, you know, things move around. And you know, that's sort of my take on it. Of course, at a meeting when we're discussing it, our first public meeting, everybody's got to get their questions out. We've done that, and then I guess we've got to agree before we wind up on this. One, we're going to defer it, pick this up with some more information, some better numbers, whatever that is. And two, what's the explicit direction to the town attorney, the staff, Bill, and then Danny? Because, you know, again, we're talking about Palm Beach, talking about this and that, and these are all good things we've got to be aware of. Bob's right. There may be a sliver of something that could help us down the line, but I don't see that helping us today.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement. We're not gonna make a decision today. We'll defer this. I'd like to get council to give a legal opinion on whether you can negotiate with the bidders to sharpen their pencils so that you can bring that information back. I would like the consent of the commission to speak to residents, to tap into the talent that we have, to look this matter over and give us some of their input, whether it's financial, legal, or otherwise, to help guide us.
Do you think we should have a special meeting to make it transparent to everybody and include everybody? You know, and not that I love reaching out to certain people, but make it more of a open?
I don't think we need a special meeting. I think
Our next one.
next meeting's in a month. We've got time for it. I think it's gonna take a month
Okay.
to get people in place to review things. Need to get documents from Danny, and I don't know what would come out of that.
Yeah, no, I was
Group?
just, you know,
Just an informal
open.
group, but I
Yeah.
think from there, we could make a decision whether or not to make it open. I think the word's gonna get out pretty quickly. Should
I
have a
think
pretty
that's
packed meeting
true.
next time.
Yeah.
If we get the ability to negotiate with the contractor, let's say the next week, then we can give you feedback and it'll probably fit into your next monthly meeting.
I think it's good to have all the numbers and feedback a little bit more before the start of the meeting.
Yeah, I
That's
finished
all.
at 3 o'clock this morning.
I would only add to that, Danny, please, don't take your foot off the pedal with respect to finishing phase one. You know, maybe that will actually help us, finish phase one when you're asking a lot of difficult questions and you're talking to the right people, particularly the guys that have to pull those poles down. Because that's useful information for us, if nothing else, for budgeting phase two, is to, you know, maybe you'll find something in there that'll give you the opportunity to maybe shave a little bit off of the newer estimates, because you found a way to save us some money.
Yeah, I certainly think that going through this will be useful. I know that Superintendent Colony, we went through with the contractor, the nitty-gritty, and eliminated a ton of stuff. We saved our total fee on the project first day.
That's phase two. Getting back to phase one, we have a date for AT&T to come pull down those lines, right? The 18th of this month.
Well, AT&T was out on September. The lines that are up there now are Comcast, according to,
Oh, Comcast is coming the 18th.
and the 18th of this month, they've committed to have those lines off the poles.
When are the poles coming down?
Then FPL will come in as soon as those lines are down. They won't trust that their lines are coming down until they see they're down.
Have you been in touch with FPL to coordinate that?
Yes, John Lear is very aware of where we are with that. I've sent them the
We'll have to give us
Comcast
a
bid.
date to pull the poles down.
Pardon?
We know that Comcast will be finished on the 18th.
And we've sent that information to FPL.
All right, this sounds like,
I
it
talked
sounds
to,
like the same old to me, quite honestly.
I talked to the project manager at FPL 3 times a week.
Would it help to bring them into our meeting? I mean,
The pole removal process on these projects typically works pretty fast. They put the whole thing out to a contractor. Pike out of Mount Airy normally has done this area, and they're very quick. They're a really good contractor. FPL doesn't use their crews.
Okay. We normally don't open up reports to public comment, but I think today, if anyone has a question or comment, Mr. Brand, if not, we'll defer till next session. Now let's move on to the town manager report.
do we need a motion to do what we just did?
I don't think so. There's nothing on the agenda, Frank.
No, I'm just for safety.
Mr. Thresh.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to report to you that I have a suggested work plan for some drainage improvements, some of which is cleaning out drainage pipes in one of our drainage basins, which incorporates old school parts of Gulf Stream Road, parts of Banyan, and parts of Polo. Those pipes have been discovered to be half full with sand, silt, and it's a standard maintenance procedure to keep those clear. That helps not only with the flow, but also with additional storage capacity within those lines. We are doing some other work, adding another tide flex at the intersection near, or work near the intersection of Banyan and Polo, putting a check valve, an additional check valve on the front end of the pipe. The cost of the work is $22,605. We do have a drainage budget that would absorb that, and we are going to utilize the contract with Collier County, and the prices that Collier County was able to negotiate are in this quote. I don't think that it needs to be voted on. However, you could tell me not to do it. It's budgeted in this current year, and I just wanted to inform you of my intent to do so.
As I understand it, the freshwater lines are occluded by 50%, and with silt, they need to be cleaned out. That seems to be certainly necessary. And then the check valve, I believe, is necessary to prevent brackish water from surging backward into the pumps and causing corrosion. So another necessary expense, it seems to me.
Absolutely.
Any questions of the town manager on that issue? Anything else in your report?
That concludes my report there.
ARPP meeting is March 24th, for anyone who wants to attend. Finance Director's report, Mr. Thrasher.
Well, I normally would just say ask that it be approved as submitted. However, I will take the opportunity to augment some of your earlier conversations in regards to the $1 million in the document and budget documents. You will be able to observe that there is capacity in this current budget to absorb the shortfall of this project if it proceeds. And with that, I have no other comment. Try to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? If not, move on to Chief Ward, your report, sir.
I recommend that the March activity report be accepted as submitted.
Set that as submitted. All right, next we move on to the Town Hall's front sidewalk near the mailbox. and there was some discussion of that at the last meeting. We have a quote from Ensco Inc. Has everybody had a chance to walk around and look at it? Is it something we want to proceed with or not? Any questions of Mr. Thrash? Tell me again, the $2,000 deduct, is that if they do not do anything with the sidewalk? They leave it or they remove it?
Well, regardless of what option you choose, if you choose any option at all, the sidewalk that runs east and west next to the curb is going to be removed if the project proceeds. The question is whether you replace that with concrete or you replace it with sod. And there's, in my opinion, no need to replace the concrete that's removed with more concrete. That it's acceptable to use sod in this location. The sidewalk would be removed as it terminates. There's a sidewalk just outside this non-ADA exit that runs north and south. That will flow and continue to be in that direction, but the sidewalk that runs perpendicular to it near the curb will be solved and removed.
So if you don't replace the concrete sidewalk, it's
Eleven-
$11,460.
That is correct.
Okay.
Replace it with sod.
Any questions?
And if it were an ADA, would we have to replace it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I brought it up to you.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve or not to approve this work?
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment before you vote?
Of course.
The beautiful town of Gulfstream has a lot of recreation. It's all private. There is absolutely no recreation in town for the average Joe, except for the beach. The comprehensive plan says that the parking lot is beach parking. May I suggest that you amend your proposal to just put a tiny little sign that says beach parking? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other discussion on this?
No, but I'd rather see the sod than more concrete.
Yeah, well, I think that was.
I mean, I think that'd be a slam dunk.
So what's the main issue here, from last meeting, as I recall, is whether or not you take out this sidewalk and sod it or replace it here, other than the concrete?
Not this sidewalk that runs north and south, the sidewalk that runs perpendicular and parallel to the curb immediately out front,
Right.
perpendicular to that sidewalk.
And the thrust of the project actually is to
Yes.
repair
Yeah.
that area under the tree and by the mailbox.
Just didn't want to do part of it and not
Mhm.
finalize the beautification project.
Well, I move to approve your recommendation, including removing the sidewalk with, or replacing the sidewalk with sod as recommended. That's a motion.
I'll second that.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Ganger?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. All right. Mr. Gang, as you all know, there has been legislative activity on the amended Public Records Act. Mr. Ganger has reported back to us several times, and I think he had his final report today.
Well, it isn't final until it's over, but unfortunately, Mr. O'Hare's observation is that the House failed to sustain the Senate's unanimous 30-0 vote. And by the way, the House and committee had voted 33-1 in favor of the vote. And it all boils down to exactly what Mr. O'Hare just announced, said, is there are at least one and maybe several members of the House who are part of this general cabal to abuse the Public Records Act. And unfortunately, one of them was in a position to actually stop the act from moving stop the bill from moving to a vote. And today's the last day in which a vote could be taken. And therefore, we have to assume that sometime when the hanky is dropped, which is how they close the session, we have to wait till next year to refile. And when I say we is going to be larger than we were this year, because a number of charities who receive some public funding are also victims of abuse of the Public Records Act. They didn't really have a voice this year, but when they did have a voice, it so enraged the elected, our legislative people, that if they were on the fence with respect to whether public agencies should get some relief from abuse of the Public Records Act, they immediately said, no, this has got to stop. During session and during committee meetings, the people who would normally have opposed changes to the Public Records Act agreed that there were, and I'll give you 4 quotes, bad apples, bad actors, rats, and cockroaches who were abusing an important act which is to the benefit of the people of the state of Florida. And sooner or later, they are going to have to pay a price. I think that for sure next year there will be legislation that's positive, but unfortunately we didn't quite make it. We got close, but we didn't make it this year. Again, I say we was the League of Cities representing public agencies. The good news is that the people who serve us as contractors did get some relief this year. That bill died, it's called in messages, on the last day of session last year. That bill was passed yesterday, or day before yesterday. So at least folks that, like the Watman Group, who joined us in the RICO case, now have a better situation with respect to how they have to deal with these frivolous and really painful actions that are being taken by a relatively few people. I think when council said last week, last meeting, give me 10 lawyers and 10 word processors, I could take the state down. He missed one thing, which is one of those lawyers has to be in a position of power in the legislature. And that was the case this year. May very well be a case again next year. But unfortunately, self-serving people will take actions which serve themselves, and that's what happened.
So the will of the people can apparently be easily thwarted by those self-motivated people. You had this amended Public Records Act sail unanimously through the Senate. As I understand it, it passed almost unanimously through every committee or subcommittee in the House.
33-1.
Until it reached the final committee, where an influential member happens to be a public records lawyer. And there it ended.
Well, I think it was very revealing that Mr. O'Hare apparently has had contacts with them. And we have reason to believe that it wasn't just Mr. O'Hare, but others who were in part of this bracket. You know, 10 lawyers and 10 word processors. It just shows you the will of the people is not that easy to protect when you've got a couple of bad actors, or bad apples as they are called, abusing the system.
But we will continue, and I'll take this moment to applaud Vice Mayor Gang, whose efforts in this regard have been remarkable. The time he spent traveling to Tallahassee, meeting with lobbyists, meeting with legislators. Bobby did a tremendous job, and the almost success of this bill is truly attributable to you. So I applaud your efforts, and I'm afraid you've got to go back at it again next year. Get some rest. comments by commissioners? If not, this meeting's adjourned.
Have a good week. Month. All that good stuff.